2 a.m. and she calls me 'cause I'm still awake. Can you help me unravel my latest mistake? Dropped a stitch about 17 rows behind me. There's no way I can pick it up from where I am. This is so frustrating.
Hello, and welcome to the 5th episode of the Sittin and Knittin podcast. I am your host, Dianna, also known as His Handmaid on Ravelry and on Plurk, and His Handmaid H on Google+. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today is Sunday, July 15th, 2012, and I am coming to you from the warm and muggy Southwest Ohio, where it is still 91 degrees at 10 minutes to 9 in the evening. We have a lot to cover today, and so let's get started. Thank yous. I would like to take the time to say thank you to all of you who participate in this podcast, either just by downloading and watching it or by contacting me through private messages on Ravelry or introducing yourself on the forums, emails, podcast, iTunes reviews. Everything that you do to communicate with us makes this podcast and the time that it takes to do it very worthwhile. And so I would just like to say thank you to everyone who has contacted me, for all of your encouraging messages, when you make comments on my project pages, just everything you do. Thank you so much. I enjoy being a part of the community, and I hope you enjoy my being a part with you. I did want to take the time to introduce some of the new people who have posted introductions in our Ravelry forum. And so we had Mima Knits, who is Debbie from San Francisco. She posted an introduction. Thank you. We also had Karen and Dolly. Karen from California. We had Loopy Lena, and that's Lena all the way from Scotland. We had Jenny Heiss 56, and I hope I didn't mispronounce that, Jenny, but she is from North Carolina, and I can't read my writing, so I'm sorry if I mispronounced your Ravelry name. We have Variegated Life, who is Heather, and she is from Detroit. We have Prairie Piper, and that is Paula. She's also the host of an audio podcast called The Knitting Pipeline, which I really, really enjoy. And Paula is from Illinois. Crafty Princess, who is Tammy from Florida. We have Kay Thompson 08, and that's Kanisha, and she lives in Florida also. So thank you, all of you who have posted introductions. I'd also like to thank those of you who took time out to give a star review on iTunes. We have 9 more new star reviews, so I really appreciate that. Also, Monica left a podcast review on iTunes. Variegated Life did, and CC Carey. So thank all of you for introducing yourselves, for the star reviews, and for the written reviews. But everybody, even those of you who don't comment in the forums, just those of you who send me a PM, everybody, I just wanted to say thank you. Anna H., also from Florida, posted an introduction, so I didn't want to forget you, Anna. So let's get started with the knitting. Out of My Hands. Well, if you haven't noticed, Out of My Hands is my Cosmic Kaleidoscope vest, and this vest was made out of Madeline Tosh sock, and I used about 2 1/4 balls of the Tosh sock. I used 1 full ball of the Margot and 1 full ball of the logwood, and I used probably just, I don't even think it was a quarter altogether that I broke into the other 2 balls. I didn't weigh it, but it wasn't that much. I bought lots and lots of yarn for this project, and I really didn't need it. I knitted on US4 3.5 millimeter needles. Now I'm going to try to adjust the camera so that you can see it a little bit. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and try to stand up. So this is the front of the vest. I went ahead, I thought I was going to use a shawl pin to close the vest, but I decided to put ties on there, and I got this idea from another Ravelry pattern that I had seen. And so I just did crochet ties, and I'll tell you how I did that in a moment. And here is the back of the vest. You probably will not be able to see it all because it comes down past my bottom. It is pretty long, and I really, really like it. I'm trying to figure out whether I want to wear it off the shoulder or on the shoulder. I hope that you were able to hear me while I was standing up. I didn't realize that I didn't even think about the fact that I was talking away from the camera. But so what I did for the ties was I did crochet ties. I chained 65, and then I did a slip stitch in the fourth chain from the hook, and every chain I did a slip stitch. And then I just put little tassels in on the end at the chain 4 space that I had. And like I said, I got that idea off of another free pattern off of Ravelry, and I can link to that. But I really like the vest. It really was an easy knit. All it is knitting around and around. You need to know how to do a make one. I ended up doing a make one where you lift, I believe I lifted the strand between the two needles. I think that's the make one that I did. And I believe I put that on my Ravelry notes, but it called for a yarn over. I actually like the make one better. The holes are not as large, which is fine for me. So you just need to know how to knit and to knit two together and to make one. And it's really, I get a lot of compliments on the vest, and it makes me look like I'm a really clever knitter, but really there is nothing to it. And the beautiful yarn did all the work. So it was a fun knit. I think I would knit it again. You know, I hear a lot of people talk about would I knit it again. Yes, I would knit it again. But there's so many options out there. I have so many ideas, so many garments that I want to try that I'm not sure when I will get back to it. When I have a lot of I don't mind wearing the same thing twice. And basically my dress pattern is the same dress pattern. I always make myself the same dress pattern, and I just vary in the fabric that I choose. But for my knitted garments, I think that I would like a little more variety in the style or the pattern that I choose. So I would recommend this pattern to a beginner knitter. It's a good travel project. It's a good autopilot type of knitting. I really enjoyed making it, and I feel a great sense of accomplishment. And like I said, I look like I'm a really talented knitter, but really it was an easy pattern. So the pattern is, again, is the Cosmic Kaleidoscope Vest, and it's by Helen Bingham. And I think that's all the information I want to share on that. I do remember there was a couple of more things I wanted to say about this vest. First of all, I decided to go ahead and hold it up a little bit just in case you couldn't see it all from when I was standing up. So there is the vest. Um, One of the things that I want to say about it is the blocking. I think the blocking was pretty easy. I just used T-pins that I have from Knit Picks. I don't have anything fancy. I'm not used to blocking um, lace weight or sock weight projects or even lace. The directions suggested that you pull out these, I did go ahead and do the crochet bind off like the directions said. I think last podcast I said I didn't know if I was going to do that, and I went ahead and did that. And they said to pull out the points and block them, but I really don't like how that turned out. If I was not so lazy and wanted to wet it and reblock it again, I would just reblock it, pinning it at the edges. Even if these curled under, I didn't like where I pulled these out and pinned them out, how they blocked out. I tried to pull them out as much as I can and make them look uniform with the other chain spaces, but really I don't like that. And so I would not block it that way. I really don't know how to block. And so I had meant to look up YouTube videos on how to block items or shawls or sweaters, but I was so excited about getting it done. As soon as I got the ends woven in, I threw it in the water and threw it upstairs on the thing and started laying it out and forgot about looking at YouTube. So I didn't like that about the blocking. Also, I wanted to ask you all, how do you store your hand knits? With this, with my Multnomah, which is the last FO that I had, knitted FO that I did for my mom, I ended up putting it in a bag. I blocked it out and it was very nice. And I kind of folded it up, put it in my knitting bag. And when I got to mom's house, it needed to be reblocked. And so, and it was not in there that long. So I know that that's not the way to store knitted items. But I did not want this just to hang, because we have moths in our house. We live in kind of a rural area, not really country, but not city either. And we do have moths in and out all of the time. And so I keep my stash very well protected. And I wondered, okay, I know I don't want to fold this up and put it in a drawer somewhere. How should I store it? So what I did was I just hung it up on a hanger and put a garbage bag on top of it and tied it up in the garbage bag. That way I wouldn't have to reblock it every time I want to wear it. But there has to be an easier way. Maybe there's not. Maybe I should just get a garment bag now that I plan on knitting more wool garment items and just store them in there. But if you all have any ideas about how you store your knitted sweaters, I would really, really like to hear that. So if you could post that in the Ravelry group under the episode 5 thread, or if you can PM me and tell me, however you want to do it, I would appreciate that. Okay, let's get to what's in my hands now. Okay, so what's in my hands? I finally done it. I cast on for the February lady sweater. I've been wanting to do this sweater for at least a year, maybe 2. If you're not familiar with it, it is an adaptation from Elizabeth Zimmerman's February baby sweater. And I can't see who the author is of it now. Pamela Wayne is the author. And this is the February lady sweater. I am very, right now, garments for myself is what I'm really inspired to knit. And I wanted to knit this because I really like the gold lace pattern. Let me see if I can get a closer. I really like the look of the gold lace pattern. And so I think that would be a fun and easy knit. I'm really not wanting to knit. So I kind of go back and forth. I'm not wanting to knit worsted weight garments for myself. I feel like worsted weight items, for the most part, worsted weight garments are a little more bulky, and I didn't feel like I needed or wanted more bulk added to me. I like worsted weight if it's knitted at 5 stitches per inch. I've done a lot of baby sweaters, and I really like the fabric of worsted weight and 5 stitches per inch. And this garment, this is and that's stockinette stitch. This is a garter stitch yoke, and then it has a gold lace pattern. So I'm not sure how bulky it would look. I am just on the garter yoke part. I am using Barocco Vintage, which is a 50% acrylic and 50% wool blend. This is a yarn. I talked about it on a previous podcast before. I purchased this yarn for either the Central Park hoodie, which I couldn't remember the name back then, or the Rocky Coast cardigan. And that's why I posted, that's why I bought this colored yarn. It's the Mochi colorway, and it's really like a cream colorway, and I thought that the cables would really look nice on it. Now I am not knitting a cabled garment, but I went ahead and it was the nicest worsted weight that I had in my stash that I wanted to use, and I wanted to go ahead and use stash yarn, so that's what I'm using. I am using size US 8 needles, which is 6.0 millimeters. And I am taking the yoke from another pattern. I've heard a lot of things about the yoke. Just looking at different projects, there's been trouble with the yoke and trouble with it being too big and trouble with increasing and all of that. And I found another pattern on Ravelry. It's called the Cables and Gardy pattern. I hope you can see it here. It's very similar. I'm sorry. It's very similar to the, as far as the yoke part, it's very similar to the February Lady sweater. And I will link that in the show notes. And that is the and cables and garter cardi. So I'm using the yoke from that, and then I will just do the gold lace for the body. And I'm going to make this as a vest. Vest is what I'm inspired to make right now. Just with fall coming up, I usually wear long sleeves anyway. I don't wear short sleeves, just my preference. And so I don't know. I have lots of store-bought sweaters. And I hope to remedy that at some point and have more hand knit than store-boughts. But I really, really like sweaters. But I do have a closet full of sweaters and don't have a lot of sweater vests. And I really like the sweater vest and the diversity of it. And so that's what I want to knit. So I'm going to make this into a vest instead of a sweater. And so this is what I have so far. I think I have maybe 7 more rows, and then it's time to start the gold lace the gold lace pattern, and that should go pretty quick. So I am looking forward to that. Let me see if there's anything else. Oh, I did a 2-row buttonhole on that. On the February Lady sweater, they just, I believe, have you do a yarn over buttonhole. But what I did was I bound off 3 stitches and then went on it across, and then on the next row I cast on those 3 stitches. I think it'll make a more stable buttonhole. I've done it before, and I just like the stability of it. So that's what I did for the buttonhole, and I appreciated them reminding me of that. Let's see, is there anything else? So that's out of Barocco Vintage. Also, I just cast on about 2 hours ago, and all I do have is cast on, is a stripy sock. I talked before about my Knit Picks Felici yarn and how I wanted to really, really do stripy socks. I have never worked with self-striping yarn. And so I just decided to do, because what made me cast these on is I was on my way to a friend's house for dinner, and I knew I wouldn't be able to concentrate. I was almost at the gold lace yoke, and I wouldn't be able to concentrate on that and knit. And so I wanted something that I would be able to knit on and still visit with people. And so I just cast this on, and I do the German cast on, which is a variation of the long tail cast on. And so I believe it's called the German twisted cast on. So I cast on 64 stitches, and I plan on doing just a 2x2 rib sock, or I might make it a 2x2 garter rib, but something easy and something quick that I can grab. I have no plans to finish this anytime soon. This is just when I can't sit and really concentrate on my garment knitting. Also, I started a new job, and I will have like 15-minute breaks and a half hour to an hour lunch, depending on how many hours I'm working at a time. And so the break room seems pretty busy, so I'm not sure if I'll be able to concentrate on the vest Or if not, if I have just a little bit of time, I want to have this and go ahead and snatch this. I wanted to knit more monogamously because I like how I get more done that way. But I wanted to, and I also talked about before, dividing my affections, not wanting to knit this or wanting to knit that. And I don't feel like I'll really be doing this because this is just backup. And as you know, I had the hitchhiker and I was carrying that around in my vehicle for a while as a backup for a travel mindless knit. Had that all together, never cast it on. From what I know about it, I'm going to have to count to get to each of the points and things like that. And so um, I kind of put that on the back burner and just picked up the stripy socks. I think it'll just be easy to knit two, purl two all the way around instead of having to look down and count. And maybe if I take time to get the hitchhiker going, then I can do it kind of in an autopilot way. But right now, I kind of put that to the side. So that is what's in my hands. I just wanted to talk a little bit about what's under my knit needle. I feel like I don't have a lot of knitting to show you, and I feel bad about that. Not for you so much. Well, for the podcast, yes, but so much for myself because I haven't had a lot of time to knit. I'm starting a new job. Like I said, I'll be working about 32 hours a week. It's just part time, and but I had to make some new outfits for work because we have a uniform that we have to wear where we have to wear a blue top, blue pants or blouse. I'm sorry, blue blouse or shirt, and then a tan skirt or pants. And so I had to go ahead and make me a couple of skirts and a couple of tops. And so I've been working on that. Nothing probably that you would find really interesting. If you do want me to show it, I can, but it's just a simple skirt and a simple vest. And I did make a one blouse, and I ended up doing some shopping for the rest. But that's what's been under my needles, and that's what's been taking up a lot of my time. That and working here at the house and being laid out because I'm tired because I'm not used to the new schedule. So that's kind of where my knitting has gone. Aspirations. I'm still aspiring and very much wanting to cast on the Piper's Journey shawl that was designed by Paula from the Knitting Pipeline. And I really, there's something about the shawl that just really, I really want to knit it. I really like how the border looks. It's very attractive to me. I don't have a picture of it right here and right now. I'm sorry, I should have had that called up for you. But I'm really wanting to knit that. I think I showed it to you before. But I want a yarn that I am in love with. And I believe it was the last podcast I showed you the Cascade 220 Sport. I'm really not in love with that yarn as much as I'm in love with the pattern. And so I want to wait until I find a yarn that I'm really in love with. And I think I have found that. And we will talk about that yarn later in the podcast. But that is one of the things I'm aspiring to. There's other projects that I would like to cast on, and we will talk about that when we talk about the goodie bag. Goodie bag. So this will be goodie bag and aspirations kind of all in one because I've been gifted a couple patterns, and there are also things that I would like to eventually cast on, some sooner, some later. And so I want to share those with you. First of all, I did find a picture of the Piper's Journey, just in case any of you all have not seen it. That is a picture of Piper's Journey by Paula from Knitting Pipeline, which is one of the ones that I want to knit. I would like to thank Martha, and she is from Minnesota, and she is not so normal on Ravelry. And a couple weeks back, I'm sorry, Martha is from New York, and she's not so normal on Ravelry. And a couple weeks back, she thoughtfully gifted me a pattern with a very sweet note. saying that I needed to knit something for myself and that Simeon was right. And so she picked something off of my wish list, which is the Abigail Cardi. And this is by Cicely McDonald. It's a Ravelry download. The pattern, though, is through Quinton Company. They do recommend their turn, which I believe is a sport weight. And it's just one of the types of patterns I really like. It's a cardi. It doesn't have buttons. It's just kind of loose and casual in a sport weight yarn, and it just really looks like something that I will enjoy knitting. So thank you, Martha, for gifting that to me, and that's something when I find the right yarn, and we'll talk about where that's going to come from later, I would like to cast that on real soon. Another pattern that I was gifted that I would like to thank Tracy from Florida for is the Wendy Knits Summer Solstice Mystery Shawl. And Tracy, who is hungry for yarn on Ravelry, kindly gifted me this pattern when I was having a rough day. And I thank you so much for picking up my day by gifting this pattern to me, Tracy. I have not cast on yet, but I am looking forward to casting on. The pattern does have nups in it. I don't know anything about them, have never done them, and I'm looking very forward to doing them. I do need quiet time to kind of get myself together and cast it on, and I haven't had a chance to dig through my stash, but I think I do have some solid colored yarn, which I think she says would work best for this. That will look nice, some solid color sock weight yarn that would look nice with this pattern. So I need to dig through and find the right yarn and get that cast on. And I know, Tracy, you're ahead of me, and I hope to catch up with you soon. I'm not sure when. This vest should not take me real long, and that might be the next thing that I cast on. I also got a pattern gifted to me very sweetly from Effie Spins, and she is Martha from Minnesota, and she gifted me the Shift of Focus cardi, which is a cardi by Vera Valamanki, I believe is her name, and the Shift of Focus cardi is knit out of I believe it is sport weight yarn. Let me see what the yarn requirements are. Yes, it is another sport weight yarn pattern, and I like the garter yoke, and I like how they had the two, I believe it is, I like the 4 buttons the way they have it, and I like how it falls. Just everything about it is something that's my style. And this was in my on my wish list, and she thoughtfully, I think, went through my wish list and picked it out, and I'm very thankful for that. So thank you very much, Maria from Minnesota. Next, I was gifted a pattern. I should say I won a pattern, and it is the Fruit Loops gang. And I won this pattern from a giveaway that Diane from the Knittables hosted on her Ravelry group. And the author of this pattern, let's see if I can get that to focus, is Susan Claudino, who is No Knit Sherlock on Ravelry. Thank you, Susan, for offering the pattern for the giveaway, and thank you, Diane, for hosting it. I was wanting to participate in the Ravel Olympics this year, and I thought of doing, since I enjoyed the monsters, I thought of doing another toy and joining Diane's team. So this just all fell into place. I just happened to be skimming through my forums and saw that there was a giveaway for this, and I entered, and I'm very thankful. I was very excited to hear I won. So thank you very much, Diane and Susan, for that. Let's see. Another pattern that I want to try that's in my goodie bag, and I just recently purchased this, is the My Hope pattern. And the designer for this pattern is Laura Linneman. And she is Lala from the Knit Girls podcast. And she designed this pattern to help raise money. I believe all the money raised from this pattern, I'm not sure if it's at all times or just for the time of the fundraiser, but I believe it's at all times, goes to a friend of hers is donating, raising money to donate to a Make-A-Wish Foundation. And I believe that is for children who are terminally ill and they want to have a last wish of something they want to do or a place they want to go and spend time with their family. And so Make-A-Wish Foundation helps make these wishes possible. And so all the proceeds from that, from the pattern, go towards this. And if you check out the Knit Girls, they have more information about the charity drive and the different prizes that they offer. This pattern has, I believe that is a drop stitch cable. And I'm not really into lacy like that. Let's see. But number one, I wanted to support the charity. And number two, I've heard different people talking about this pattern. And every time they say the My Hope pattern, I always think of, well, I'm always thinking anyway, but I think of my daughter, Araya Hope. Araya Hope is my 9-year-old that passed away in January 2011. And her dad would call her Hope more than I did. I would always call her Araya or Araya Hope, but she was my Hope. And her dad would call her Baby Hope. So anyway, every time I hear someone mention the My Hope pattern, I always think of My Hope. And so even though it's not really my style, I wanted to have the pattern. It was just like having yarn that you really like to pet. I wanted to have the pattern. I want to have it in my library. I wanted to donate to the organization. I wanted to look at the pattern, and I think I will knit the pattern. It does require a beaded bind off, and I don't know how to do that yet. But I will either knit it and donate it or give it to a friend or maybe auction it off or something. Because what I was thinking was I want to knit it in pink. And the reason why I want to knit it in pink is because Araya, who had a seizure disorder, used to wear a pink helmet all the time. When she first got her helmet, she had a tan helmet. But the last year or so, she had this pink helmet, and this would help her for when she would fall, it would protect her head, and she would sleep in it and everything. And something about when I heard about the pattern and everything, I thought, I want that pattern, I want to knit that pattern, and I want to knit it in pink. And I had thought about the Madeline Tosh sock that I have in my stash, and I hope that you can see it good because it's starting to get dark. When I first started recording, it was light, but it's starting to get dark. But I don't think that it's quite the same pink. It's darker. So I may look for a lighter pink. And actually what I wanted to do was go ahead and splurge and get like one of the a gradient pink. I've never used gradient before, and that is really what I had in mind at first. And then I thought, oh, well, I have this pink Madeline Tosh sock, but when I pulled it out today to show you all, I thought, well, that doesn't really match. So I might go with the gradient, but that is something that I do look forward to knitting. I kind of see myself when it's getting cold, just sitting down and knitting the pattern and just thinking about Araya, and I'm going to enjoy doing it. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it yet. Like I said, I don't wear a lot of pink. I do have one pink dress, but thank you very much, Lala, for designing that pattern and donating it, and just thank you for bringing it to me. It was not designed for me, but anyway, it has been a blessing to me. So I'm very thankful for that pattern. Let's see, is that all in my goodie bag? I think so. So we will go to what's on my iPod. So what's on my iPod? Well, I have been listening to a New to Me podcast, and I think she has about 50 episodes, so it's not very new, but it's new to me. I've heard of it before, and to tell the truth, because of the name, I really didn't want to listen to it. I wasn't sure what the content of it was going to be like. I don't know. I just didn't want to listen to it. I'm not sure how I started listening to it, but I'm very glad that I did. And it is the Yarngasm podcast. And it is hosted by Kristen, who is Vine on Ravelry. And I like the podcast for one thing. The first thing that attracts me to the podcast is the clarity of the audio. I just really like the clarity of the audio. I like to listen to her talk about her podcast, about her projects. Um, she just is just like sitting down and chats. She chats. She does a lot of chatting about what she's working on. I even like the birds chirping that separates her different segments of her podcast. And so I've only listened to a few episodes, but I really, really like it. And thank you, Kristen, for the podcast. And so that's what I've been listening to. As far as what I've been watching my regulars, Positively Knitting. Every time that one comes out, I'm watching it before it can even download onto iTunes, and Dramatic Knits and some of those that, my regulars that I watch. But there are some new ones. One of the shout outs that I want to give is to Chrissy, who I believe she is Manic Pearl on Ravelry. And she used to host an audio podcast called the Manic Pearl Podcast, and it went on hiatus for a while. And she did renew it and do an episode probably about a week and a half ago. So you can listen to that episode. But she also started a video podcast, and it is called the Snappy Stitches video podcast, and it's only about 15 to 20 minutes long. She's done maybe 5 or 6 videos, but I love watching Chrissy. First of all, I love the Manic Pearl podcast. She just had it very well organized. I loved everything about it, from her Canadian accent to everything, from her online finds, and I loved everything about it. And then she experienced some trouble with her wrist, I believe, and so she was not knitting for a while, and she stopped that podcast. Chrissy is a prolific knitter. I love the garments that she knits. She's the one that got me really wanting to do the multnomah by listening to her last year talk about it a lot. She's done at least 3, I believe. And so I love seeing her sweaters that she knits, and even though I'm not spinning right now, if you hadn't noticed, I didn't have a little twist today. I like hearing her talk about her spinning, and I just like spending time with Chrissy. So that is the Manic Pearl, that's Snappy Stitches podcast, and you can find that at snappystitches.com. And she talks about her sewing too. She's gotten into sewing, and I really like that. So go check her out, and I'll have that linked in the show notes. I'm also listening to an audiobook, and I have not done that in a while. And one of my favorite authors is Frank Peretti. I don't know how many of you have heard of him, but he has written several books. They're kind of have a good versus evil theme, kind of a spiritual warfare type of thing. Well, that was what his first 2 books were about. But he varies from, if you like sci-fi type books, it's not really sci-fi. It's hard to describe. You have to read Frank Peretti to know. It's hard for me to describe him. But anyway, he has a new book out called Illusion. And at first, I really did not want to read this book because I'm not really a sci-fi person. And I thought it sounded more like time travel sci-fi. And that's really not what I was wanting to read. But being a true fan, I wanted to pick it up and try it anyway. And so I'm listening to it in the vehicle on my way to and from work, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm about halfway through it, and I would encourage you to check it out. I won't give too much away, but it is about magicians. And so it has a lot of descriptions about magical tricks and things like that. And I didn't think I would like that, but I really, really, really like it. So that is what's on my iPod.
Hi, and welcome back to Court of Justice. I'd first like to start off by saying thank you everyone for coming back and watching, and thanks to everyone who sent a nice comment and encouraged us on. And it was really encouraging, and I just wanted to say thank you for that. Um, I don't have anything on my needles this week, but I did finish the mermaid I've been working on, and she didn't come out as nice as I was expecting her to, but she's only my first toy, so the next toy I sure hope to do a lot better. See that? And then I made a hole right there. Yep, and a few holes. My mom and I had decided we didn't get her hair done in time for the podcast, so we're gonna try to do it this week, and I will hopefully have her finished by next week. And I that's it for finished objects. Let's see. What what I hope to do next is the horse, but I don't have the book with me right now, so if you will go back to podcast number 1, you'll see the horse there. And that's what I plan on doing next. So that's it for me. Thank you everyone for watching, and I hope you have a nice week. And I will hopefully post pictures of her on Ravelry this week. So thank you everyone for watching. It's really nice. Anyway, so that's it for me. Thank you so much.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Journey's Journey, part of the podcast. I'm your host, Journey. So this week we're gonna start off with finished object. I finally have a finished object, and it is the Oregon tote. I've been calling it the Booga bag, but it's really called the Oregon tote. It wasn't originally supposed to have pockets, but I did put pockets on it. So here's the inside. I put a pocket on the inside. And I did this all by myself without my mom's help, so my pocket is kind of messed up. But that's my pocket on the inside. And I didn't know that it would look like this. And I accidentally forgot to do it before I fell to the back, so I did it after I fell to the back, which wasn't very good. But this is my Oregon tote. Complete. Instead of getting, my mom thought it was blue. My mom thought it was purple. It was called Magic Blue. So it's purplish, it's a grayish color when it's felted, but it's very pretty. So I like how it turned out. A little bit bigger than I had anticipated, but I will definitely make another one. So I love this. My next thing is my doll. She's still work in progress. I have not finished her like Justice finished hers. This week I finished her arms. So all I need to do is get some black yarn for her feet, and the only reason why I have not finished her is because I don't have any black yarn for her feet. But next week, or next time we do this podcast, I assure you I will have my doll finished. You're probably getting tired of seeing her. But here is her arms. And so that is the doll. So the next thing is the socks. I frogged them because I was having a very difficult time. So I started a granny square dishcloth. I think that's what it's called. Well, I've made up the pattern at first, and then I needed a little bit of help how to go like back up in the triangle. Like all I know how to do is this part, and I needed to know how to do it like back up like that. So I had to look on Ravelry, so I just put it on as a granny square. So there's that. Knit Sugars and Cream stripes yarn. I'm using Denise needle size, I don't quite remember. I think it was size 4. The next thing is I started just this Sunday when we were at a friend's house and the adults were sitting on the table talking. I always take knitting with me. I started another fountain scarf. I made one for, I said it was for my teacher, but then it turned out being for my best friend's mom. So I made it for her, and I started another one. And this one I'm going to take to convention. So it's exact same colors, exact same yarn. Denise needles, size 8. So very pretty font yarn. So I think that's all for Journey's Journey this week. Thank you so much for watching. Oh, so my aspirations. I have aspirations this week. I want to start the felted slippers, and Nicole, or Hot Ass Knitter on Ravelry, gifted them to me for my birthday. So thank you so much, Nicole. That was very sweet, and I was surprised. So that was nice surprise. So I am going to start those as soon as I finish my doll. That is what I'm going to start because I love felting. So yes, I'm going to finish my doll and my Granny Smith scarf. I think I will have them done by next week. I hopefully will have her hair on too if we get enough black yarn. But thank you so much. Bye.
Wow. I would like to say that this week's wow for me is Quince and Company Yarns, and it is an online yarn company. I listen to Knitting Pipeline I've been listening to it for quite a while, probably from the very beginning, and they sponsor Paula, and even her pattern is, I believe she released it through them. And you know how it is when you pass the same house over and over again, you just get used to it. And even if there's a change, you really never notice. Well, I always hear her talk about Quince and Company, but I've been guilty of just not going heading over there. Usually when I'm listening to an audio podcast, I'm in a vehicle or something and I forget about it when I come home. And I just never visited the website before. Well, I recently visited this week, and Pam Allen is one of the owners, I believe, of it, and she wrote the Knitting for Dummies book, which is, she's done a lot of things, but Knitting for Dummies is what I really know her from because that's how I learned to knit. But anyway, just reading their story and looking at their yarns. Their yarns are of a tonal, earthy color, very beautiful, very good content, and very good price. And Paula speaks highly of them, and I really respect Paula. I think she is a very good seasoned knitter, and I like her a lot. So I talked about getting yarn for a couple of those sweaters, and I think one for my Piper's Journey, I would like to get some Quince and Company yarn, and also for one of the sweaters, either the Abigail Cardi or the Shift of Focus. Another one that I didn't talk about in aspirations, but my fingers are really, really itching to start, is the Calligraphy Cardigan by Hannah Fettig. And I believe that calls for a sport weight yarn too. So I plan to make a purchase from Quince and Company here real soon. I like the earthy tones. I like their story. I like what they have to offer and everything about it. And I'm really looking forward to checking out their yarn. So I would encourage you to go over there. They do have some pretty nice patterns over there too. And I would encourage you to go over there. So that is just my wow for me. I thought, I can't believe I haven't been over here before. Paula talks about it all the time, and I just never took the time to visit the website. And I'm so glad that I did. Okay, for our ASL Minute, I hope this is working. I wanted to let you know that if you probably can't see in the background, that I am podcasting from a different location. As I shared with you before, our desktop was hit by lightning, and I was watching the past couple of podcasts and they seem a little grainy. And so I wanted to go ahead and record on my laptop, and we'll see how this works. I did do episode 4.5 from my laptop, but I used the webcam and the laptop webcam, and it seemed a little choppy. So I brought my webcam over from my desktop, and I am in a different room in the house. This is my living room. The other room is the family room. And so I'm not sure if you can really see me from the waist down. I don't think you can, but I hope that I'll be able to demonstrate the signs for you clearly. Let me know what you think about the lighting, what you think about the camera, what you think about clarity and everything else. I welcome any feedback either through private message or on the Ravelry group under episode 5. So we talked about hi, how are you? My name is Dianna, and your name. So that's what we learned so far. And so they will sign back, our fellow knitters who are deaf or hard of hearing. We're just imagining. Will sign back their name. And then today what we're going to work on is nice to meet you. Now for nice, you have your non-dominant hand, or which means your hand that you usually don't use. If you're right-handed, your non-dominant hand would be your left hand, and vice versa. You have your non-dominant hand out and flat, and you take your dominant hand and you run it over there like nice, nice. This is also the sign for clean. If you do it a couple times, this is clean, or if you want to say clean up, you can do clean. But to say nice, it's nice to meet you. Now, to meet, you have both of your index fingers up and the rest of your fingers down, and this is the sign meet. As you can see, my fingers are a little double jointed, so they're not really straight, but this is the sign for meet. But if you're talking about me meeting you, you'll have one finger coming from you and the other finger going to the person. And so it's kind of like, instead of saying me to meet you, this is a directional verb, and this means meet you. Meet you. And you're moving your finger from you to them to show meet you. So it's nice to meet you. For our knitting circle today, I would like to share a little bit about justice. We are coming up on a 1-year anniversary for justice. July 28th of last year, which was about 6 months after we buried Araya. Actually, it was in June. If I go back a little bit to June, Justice fell over with a seizure. She has never had a seizure in her life, and it seemed like she had a seizure. We took her to the hospital, and further tests proved after MRI that she had a tumor on her brain. And the tumor was located between her brainstem, right on her cerebellum, which is right at the base of her neck. Probably, yeah, about right at the base of her neck. And so they didn't know if it was benign or malignant, and they didn't know how long it had been there because she never had an MRI before, never seen a need for it. But he thought that the surgeon thought that it might be aggressive because there was a lot of swelling around the tumor, which made him think that it had been growing pretty quickly. So he wanted to get her scheduled for what they call a gross total resection. I believe that's what it's called, where they removed the tumor. So a month later, on July 28th, Justice went into the hospital for what they thought would be an 8-hour surgery. Before the surgery, they told us that there was a risk that Justice would have some temporary, what they called cerebellum mutism, meaning that she may not be able to talk or that her words would be slurred for quite a few months. They also thought that she would have some paralysis on her left side of her body. The tumor was more on the right side, so with them kind of digging over there on the right side, she may experience some paralysis on the left side of her body. And but we really felt like it was something that needed to be removed and removed quickly. So Justice went in for surgery, and it ended up taking about 12 hours instead of 8 hours. They did remove all of the tumor. They did have to shave her head from probably half of her hair. They had to shave her hair off. And she had a pretty sizable scar that goes down from the middle of her head to the back of her neck. And she was in the hospital about 2 weeks for inpatient therapy. And then she had about 6 months after that of outpatient therapy. Justice did not have any mutism, and she was not paralyzed. She does have a little shakiness in her hands, and they just kind of said that that is casualties of war, as they call it, or casualties from the surgery. But she is doing very, very well. So when you see her knitting, and when you see her on the podcast, just know that she has come a long way, and it is a miracle that she is where she is. We're very thankful for it. They were very surprised that she was knitting. They were very surprised that she was coordinated to sign. And so, you know, the Lord brought us through. Our faith in God brought us through, and we're so thankful that Justice is here with us a year later. So on July 28th, which will probably be around the time that I'll podcast again, it will be her 1 year anniversary. So I kind of wanted to share that with you all and say happy anniversary, Justice. Well, if you stuck with us this far, I want to thank you very, very much. I didn't have very much knitting, and so I didn't think that it would take me very long. And here it is, 10 o'clock, and I am done. So I want to remind you that we still have the July share contest open on the Ravelry group. And I had shared with you all last podcast about my encounter with lightning while I was knitting. And some of you, I've asked you to share just times where knitting has kept you grounded. It could be specific, or it doesn't have to be specific. Sometimes there's so many times that knitting keeps us grounded, we can't think of one specific situation. But I have really been appreciating reading all that you all have been sharing with us in that thread. So that thread is still open. On my first podcast in August, I will draw for a $7 or less giftable pattern from Ravelry for all those who enter in the contest. Please be a member of the group, and 1 entry per person. And so I don't comment in the thread because I know I'll be doing the drawing in the thread, but I want to thank each and every one of you for taking the time to go over there and share. I just really, really enjoy reading it, and I know I'm not the only one, and we can even chatter about the different instances. And you can open up a thread yourself, or you can chatter about it in one of the episode threads. So we have that going on. Also, like I've alluded to before, I do have a new job. I am working part-time in retail. And so I'm still hoping to be able to podcast every 10 days or so. I think it's been about 12 days this time, just because I'm getting used to my new schedule. But it'll be about every 10 days, and I may have to extend it to 2 weeks. But I thank you very much for taking the time to be with us, and taking the time to visit our home. And thank you for sitting and knitting with us. Take care.
I feel I should just slam it down on the table and walk away madly, 'cause my stitches don't count up and I missed a cable. This yarn's not the size that it says on the label.